Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's AMA. We have some interesting things to share with you guys. Maybe, as usual, if someone in the chat could just give me a wave to show that they can hear me, that would be much appreciated. And then we can proceed. Okay, yeah, they can hear me. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to give a brief update on some of the things that are being worked on for the next few minutes. I'll give Diego's update as well. Diego unfortunately can't join us to give an update about Seedling. He's currently traveling and his connection isn't good enough. And then in about 8 minutes, Herman will give us the strategic update. Then we'll move on, and Marv, I believe, has some good news to share about the upcoming launch and preparation thereof for Cherish. And then we're going to move on to the quiz as usual. I think there's a couple of people, due to some technical issues with Telegram, couldn't send me their addresses for the prizes to be given out for the quizzes last week or the week before. So I'll make sure to get everybody paid up who has won in the next few hours anyway. But as of now, some of the interesting things we want to share with you guys are that we are expanding the team again. Herman will touch on this more, both on the Cherry side and also specifically for some of the ecosystem projects. As things are ramping up now, as you guys know, there are a lot of updates to come with regards to Unigate, who unfortunately can't join us today to talk more about what they're doing, but they will soon in one of our AMAs in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. Otherwise, we have Cherish, of course, as I just mentioned, are getting ready for launch as well, and Seedling have really pushed on with their expansion into different areas of crypto and are launching lots of cool projects. There's also Memento and also another couple of interesting ecosystem projects that are kind of about to get off the ground in the next few weeks. So it's quite an exciting time at Cherry. Otherwise, from a Cherry perspective, specifically, the internship program, which we launched last week, we've gotten some really cool applications across the 3 different job postings that we put up, which are for venture capital, for marketing, and for development. If you are interested and have been kind of unsure as to whether to apply, it doesn't hurt to apply. Just get in touch with us, and we'll be able to talk to you about what kind of future you could possibly have in Cherry or in the community or whatever, or through the internship program itself. Similar to that, from a community perspective, the Learn initiative, the Cherry Labs University initiative, has been basically finalized. We have the technical side more or less done, and we're just tightening up some of the content over the next couple of days, today and tomorrow, and probably a little bit of Friday. So I'm hoping that by close of business UTC on Friday, we'll actually launch that and you guys can get involved. So all those people, I think it was 15 people who reached out to be beta testers for the content that we're going to be putting up on that. I'm going to send out a link to you guys probably tomorrow, maybe this evening, where you can take a look at the platform itself, give some feedback on both how it works and also the content itself. So that should be quite interesting. Aside from that, we have some interesting marketing initiatives coming up, both for Cherry and for Cherish. Marv, I'll leave the discussion of that from a Cherish perspective to Marv, who will give us a better overview of that in a few minutes. But from a Cherry perspective, as I said last week, I think we're going to refocus and double down on some of the content creators that are in already in the community who have been making really cool and informative stuff. We're going to make a bit more of an announcement about that. In particular, we're going to branch out into different social media platforms, which we haven't really looked at in the past. Some of the ones that everybody's aware of, but we don't have much of a presence on. So one of our community members has been doing some great work on that, and hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have our presence up on those as well. Aside from that, Seedling, I believe, as of today, I'm not sure, but if not by now, but in the next couple of days, we'll have an increased level of transparency and disclosure in terms of what's going on, and they're going to have, more analytical capabilities for Seedling. People staking with Seedling will be able to see exactly what's going on that platform. I think Herman's going to mention more about this. I haven't actually seen it go live today, but it should be in the next few days anyway. So that's quite positive as well. As I said, Herman is driving at the moment, so he's going to join us in a couple of minutes. But aside from that, as I said, internally, we are expanding the teams again. This is going to happen in tandem with the internship project, so that basically we'll increase the number of people that are working on the technical side, but also on the business side, and be able to get more done. Because, as I've said before, and as you guys know, we're quite busy at the moment. We're working long hours. We're getting a lot done, but it's always good to be able to just kind of hypercharge that and make more progress as we go along, with the help of new hires and interns and trainees and stuff like that. So that's quite positive as well. We also will have a new content drive over the next couple of weeks. We have our lead writer has been making some interesting and thought-provoking pieces for us regarding things like privacy, regarding things like tokenomics, and other aspects of the crypto sphere, which are always good from the community perspective to be able to read, and see into the strategy of the company. I think that reading our Medium is probably, and along with these AMAs, is probably the best way to get an insight into, where our strategic thinking lies at the moment. And also on top of that, it's also good for outreach, because some of our blogs do quite well, and they draw the attention of people that maybe haven't invested or gotten involved in the community yet. So they can present a good image to the company as well. As always, if anyone has any recommendations or ideas, they can always DM me or drop a message in the chat. We're going to also we have quite a efficient ambassador program and cohort of ambassadors working for us now. So I'd like to thank them all as we speak. They're working away. They're always helping to push our messaging on social media, and they're always working hard for us. So I think that what we're going to try and do, once things die down and we've started the interview process with the intern applicants, which should happen next week, we're going to expand again the ambassador program. So I think if someone could drop the link to the ambassador program application form in the chat there, and anybody who's interested in getting more involved and helping out, it doesn't require too much of a time commitment. A few hours a week is more than enough whenever you like, of course. Then you can just apply, and then we'll be reviewing all of the applications that we've had over the past few months and bringing more people into the fold over the next, I would say, 2 weeks. So I think with that, I think that Herman is possibly ready to join in. If not, I can give Diego's
20 more seconds. Otherwise, okay. Yeah, Diego. Let's have Diego go ahead. And,
okay. Okay. So just bear with me. I'm going to give Diego. Diego, as I said before, Diego and Javine have been really making really good progress at Seedling. Really interesting projects are launching on Seedling, not just the kind of overhyped ones that you might see on other launch pads. These are projects with very strong use cases, with really strong teams. Generally, every team that we work with has fully doxed management which is always good. In crypto, it's always important to have as much transparency as possible. But I'm just going to give Diego's update. So, with regards to marketing, we're working on a KOL program, a key opinion leader program. So me and Diego have been talking about this quite a bit for a couple of months now, actually, where we are looking to establish strong links with maybe some of the underrated KOLs in the space, where we can kind of establish a long-term relationship with them, so that they benefit from the energy in our community, and we benefit from the kind of outreach that they can do on our behalf for Seedling. So we're kind of close to closing some very strong partners, and yeah, the partnership aspect is also applies to a number of VCs in this space, which we're hoping to establish deeper ties with as well. Which Diego, I think, will be making a couple of announcements in this regard within the next week, I believe. Lumi is a very interesting project that is going to launch on Seedling soon. And Lumi is an educational platform with a really, really strong team, and they're kind of really have a really strong community outreach, and they're very accessible on Telegram. One of the managers for Lumi, one of the executives, was in the Seedling chat yesterday answering everybody's questions. And actually, they're hosting an AMA tonight. I think it's late tonight, I believe. I'm not sure exactly when it is. I think Diego might be able to just update us in the Seedling channel in his announcements, so keep an eye on that. So what we have is, we're one of the few, or I think we're the only launchpad, I believe, don't quote me on this, that have a seed phase option with regards to the Lumi launch. So that means that Seedling holders really get, priority treatment over everyone else, in terms of buying into that sale, which is upcoming. I'm not sure exactly what date it is, but it's very soon. So for people that are looking to invest, this is a very good option. And then he also said to mention that we are trying to focus on improving and refining our practices internally for project evaluation and selection, with a new kind of in-house method for appraising different projects. I think that will probably also be reflected in the due diligence documents that we will be giving, that we are already presenting to the community with the signing of each new project. So for those people who are interested in having even more oversight and analysis of projects that are launching on Seedling, within the next couple of weeks, you'll have like an expanded kind of toolkit and list of facts and data for you to pour through, and get a better kind of idea of which projects to invest in and which to keep away from. But generally they've kept the quality very high, which is great to see. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Diego and the guys can come up with in the next few weeks as well. So with that, I think that Herman is probably ready to give us his general strategic update. Are you there, Herman?
I am. I'm ready. Though Daryl, I'm prepared. I was just driving, as Eoghan mentioned. I want to start with an opening little speech, opening few sentences about something that's been on my mind. I and Roman in particular have been connecting with partners and investors. They often barrage us with questions about strategy and the short-term actions that we're taking to respond to various events and so forth. But yesterday, I got quite an interesting call about, got an interesting question about our thoughts on community and how it fit as a cog in the Cherry machine. I'll start off the way I answered him, this partner of ours. with a background on myself and Boer in particular, I joined cryptocurrency initially by contributing to open source. I was an open source developer far before joining this crazy and interesting space. The object of open source is to collaboratively develop software, often in a diffused and distributed environment, where ownership is not assessed on, and responsibility, of course, is not necessarily assessed on the base of who's doing the most work, of who's funding anything, who's using, who are the stakeholders. Open source is generally structured by means of pure consensus of both users and developers. They generally elect a select few who function as the gatekeepers for, let's say, new features. Of course, everybody else is welcome to, but everybody's sort of subordinate to this elected rule. We can see this with projects such as one I've been involved in called Tor, that involves now thousands of people, but is still quite focused into the hands of 5 to 10. Others, I won't prolong this too much, but from these basic tenets of open source, came along crypto that tried to enforce the same governance structure in the assessment of trust. So how do we know and trust that a statement of any one party is true unless there's a counterpart that can be trusted, that can verify that this is a correct statement, that preserves the sequence of states. So they have both this judge role and the guarantor role. That the state that has passed is effectively the one that's published and that they are broadcasting. Nested in this comes the necessity of people taking on this responsibility, participating in this consensus, which is certainly not efficient, not as efficient as, let's say, a government or a bank or a trusted counterparty. It can be your mother who says, well, this is so, and you just trust her. But it does have, I don't know, an ineffable, I wouldn't be able to describe it right now, meaning and value. The ability of having individual parties of the system be themselves not subordinate or subject to the whims of some controller who they are forced to trust, essentially. There's a level of coercion, but rather themselves take on the responsibility of enforcing the truth as a shared fact, not because it's so, not because they say so, not because some math equation decides that it is, though that's often how it's described, especially in blockchain and so forth, that it's all trust based on cryptography and stuff like that. It's not really the case. Those are the basics, but really the way consensus is formed on blockchain, the way and the revolutionary idea is that while we do have these strong protocols that allow us to communicate effectively through cryptography and do so with some degree of certainty that what individuals claim is true, like it is not just factual, but is also what they're claiming. There's an ability of trusting the medium. So I want to get lost in too much into this, but ultimately, the revolutionary idea in open source and that's best expressed in blockchain as a open source system, where it's not just the object that's being developed, but also the action going on. Users themselves participated in this. I mentioned the opening that this was an organized thought. I don't know exactly how this applies to Cherry. I extended this answer, so I worked. I met my co-founder Boer, who likes to come around on Telegram and talk smack with you guys. We met in a project called Dash. Now, Dash took this idea of consensus of governance-based truths, so convened truths by verifiable protocols, by verifiable means, but still convened truths, a step further, not just to decide what the state is, but rather what the state should be going forward and how this state may change. This project was called Dash. Boer is one of the main contributors to their Masternode. People now like to talk about Masternodes and so forth. They like to talk about DAOs. Well, Dash was the very first DAO, and without the Masternode which Boer created, there wouldn't even be the concept of a DAO now. So fast forward, we worked in Dash for a few years. We then worked in Pivex. And this idea of community, I think, developed in us as founders, but also resonated in the broader crypto community that suddenly adopted it. Before, everybody was quite fine with accepting state governance, so state consensus, but still delegating to a select few what the next state or how the state should be verified in the future. So there's this difference between network consensus and governance consensus, the things that the characteristics that then emerge into in a DAO. And then just like that, from 2014 to 2015, the idea was introduced by Dash, and slowly everybody adopted this model. I don't know why. I know that there's a value in it, and I'll try not to go on and on about what the implications are, but know that the way we think about this project, the way we think of Cherry, though I'm a strong character in these calls, I sort of sit here and go on these long rants with no apparent aim. I make decisions that seem quite arbitrary and do wield the ultimate power of purse. I get to decide what to spend, especially in Cherry Labs. This is an intermediate step for Cherry. We really find value, and I'll try to elaborate on this further. We'll try and make it into a blog and so forth. I don't need to bore you too much on this. There's great value in having the users themselves party of the decision-making process of determining what their product, the product which is in common evolve. That's the only premise of their relationship, people. You guys wouldn't know each other were it not for Cherry. And have them make the decisions. I feel I've been going on too much about this, but though these are introductory thoughts, are words are confused and unstructured, I hope that you have an intuition of this mindset and this sort of background of how open source was started, what the premises are for open source, for blockchain, then for DAOs, and how we think about it direct us in how going forward we look at you guys as not just investors, not just stakeholders, but really stewards as a whole of our project. I'll stop. Normal updates. Eoghan mentioned most. Seedling, people have asked. They've answered. They are going to release some level of monitoring of your EVM staking, so your liquid staking on their stake.seedling.co web app, probably in the next few days, by the end of this week for sure. We are indeed hiring. If you know engineers, I currently am interviewing about 50. We're already interviewing so many, then why not add more? We're quite serious this round. We're probably going to hire 5 or 6 new personnel. We're going to expand the team significantly. Engineering wise, we also have some marketing plans. Eoghan mentioned the apprentice project that we're running. That's in the internship. I'm sorry. That's quite interesting. We'll see how everything fits together. We do plan all these efforts to be as applied as possible, so people will start working on things and getting things done, and sort of softening that learning curve that affects really complex technology products like Cherish. I think I'll close. I would have liked not to have spent so much time on the DAO. I would like to be a bit more synthetic, so that I would have tied this last point back. I'll suspend it, tell you my thoughts succinctly, and then you can tie it back in how it fits in the idea of diffuse responsibility, of diffuse decision making. People have asked, and they've shown concern with the market situation. We're aware of at least one investor who just decided one day to dump his entire holdings, and they're quite significant holdings. They owned in the range of 1 to 2% of the supply of Cherish. To dump all these tokens on the market, and that caused a rapid slide, which we've now sort of recuperated, but still, it's disheartening. People, I think, saw this as a point where, though before the price was declining, it was less significant. I'll start off by saying that us, the project, it's not really our job to play the markets. We are skilled in a few areas. We're not skilled in trading, let's say. Nor is it really our job to game the market into thinking or into assessing our value in a different way. All we do is build a product, give it to people, do it in a most practical and maintained way and controlled way as possible. So certain premises are met, and while the products are cutting edge and really innovative, they're still somewhat stable. That's our responsibility, and that's where our responsibility ends. What people think this is worth, the value they assess this by, is entirely up to them. We don't see our role as decision makers in that. We take no responsibility in even defining what the price of the token should be. We do, however, so this is like the corporate stance. This is my stance, since my declared role in all this is making sure that the product is released. It's released in time and it works. that though we do go fast, we do also take some time and make it stable. We're mindful of other factors such as broader economic factors and more local ecosystem factors such as people that at one point were quite excited and now not anymore, simply because these external factors weighed them down. I've spoken about this in the past. So I'll skim over what I mean by this. But that's my job, and I sort of decided this for myself. Everybody else's job, as I see it, is especially if they don't have technical competencies to help making the product more stable, testing it and so forth, reviewing the code. It's helping. This is, of course, if you are party of the project, if you are a stakeholder, if you do recognize your responsibility toward the future of Cherry. Your responsibility is to make, say, my job somewhat easier by minding about these things, by helping the market, by guiding the market. Let's say trading. There's many other ways, through education, for example. In its discovery of Cherry, both of the true value of Cherry, that's what the market is. It's trying to find the true value. Nobody knows what the true value is now, and that true value may change. Certainly as the ecosystem or as the crypto markets contract, certainly the value may contract as well. Everybody has their role, even traders, though I'm not one myself. And complaining isn't really an action that's conducive to it. So this is not to say that you shouldn't complain. Of course, you should demand the most from myself, from our team, but also take stock that we do hold our community in very high regard, and that's why we respond to feedbacks as the Seedling team have, delivering statistics that their users demanded. But this also in turn means that you have responsibility toward us, toward the project, helping advance the vision by whatever means are available to you. That's it. I've spoken too much. Thank you for listening. I'm going to keep on driving now. If you have any questions.
Yeah, we had one question, Herman. Thank you for that. That was very enlightening. There was one question for you in particular, which was worth mentioning, and that was, hang on. Yeah. So, what percentage would you say in terms of development work is done for the EVM and relay chain as of now? I know it's hard to measure things in percentages when it comes to development work, but
I generally don't like to give timelines. I shall, because I'm quite confident in this one. EVM is done. I would say like 90% done. It needs some final levels of testing within our own, testing environment. So relay chain and then EVM. But I'm quite confident that within 2 weeks from the release of relay chain, of course, EVM can only work on relay chain as a parachain itself. We'll release some documentation about this, how exactly all this will be structured. But regardless, I see EVM about a 2-week process post relay chain deployment. Now, the better question, of course, is when will Cherry Network become a relay chain? Thankfully, most of this development is being done in public. We open source a lot of GitHub repositories over the past week, including the one where the relay chain work is being done. We are very close. I'll give you a range of 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm quite confident it'll be sooner. I won't tell you whether this is for deployment in testnet. I won't tell you if this is for deployment in mainnet, but we are very, very close to getting a relay chain up and running, at least on testnet. And depending on how things go, and I'm quite confident they should go fine. We've worked on this quite consistently for the past few months. EVM, which would follow shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Herman. Yeah, that's quite exciting. With regards to the other things that you mentioned, it really is. I think people don't maybe take this into account sometimes, that we are very receptive to recommendations, suggestions, and requests from the community in terms of initiatives we've done. Even, for example, as you mentioned, Seedling, even staking, for example, as far as I remember, wasn't something that we were going to prioritize quite as much, or to have it out as quick after mainnet release. But given the demand and the interest in that from the community, we decided that that was something that we would bump up the priority list. Events, people wanted events, so we did that. Things like the ambassador program, internships, all these kind of things were actually something that even the AMA itself, while I've been kind of planning to do it, people said that they would really appreciate if we had more regular AMAs. So then that was kind of, I took the steps to kind of, let's say, oh, well, let's do this every week. And it's been very successful and people have really appreciated it. So, yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that Herman said to me when I first came on board a long time ago, that the goal was always that the Cherry isn't a business, or a company or a corporation, it's a project. It's something that, in keeping with some of the dynamics and the ethos of open source, that it is something that people build. And yes, they are rewarded for building it, but it's something that is built and then presented to the world. It's presented to humanity, so to speak, whether it's a small incremental improvement or it's a paradigm changing advance. This is how open source works. Herman, as he mentioned, and the other co-founders have an extremely strong, as much open source experience as almost anyone else, and as much of a background in that. So that is where we're going with the Cherry project. It is a community, an ecosystem, a project, as opposed to just a business or a company. And Herman said to me a long time ago, last year, when I first got involved, that the goal was to hand this to people, hand this to the community, to humanity, whatever way you want to phrase it. And then that will be taken from there once we had given all of our talents to the project and put it on a good standing. That from there, and we don't know when this will be, at what point this will be in the future, but it will be at some point that we make it successful, that people see enough value in it, that more and more people get involved, and that we are kind of our strategic decision making is surplus to requirements, because there are more and more people involved, and that it is basically a decentralized autonomous organization. Yeah, that's the punchline anyway. But the DAO perspective is very much the goal. So that was very interesting, and thanks for the interesting news as well, Herman. I'm hoping that people will appreciate that. It's quite exciting, the things that are coming down the line. So with that in mind, I know that Marvin has some interesting things to share with us. There's a couple of questions as well that I'll just address very quickly here. So Mr. Burak, you asked, in the long run, why should we trust you and follow you in your project? How do you raise awareness and elimination of the doubts of investors, partners, customers? I think I'll answer that one. It's something that we've been very conscientious about ever since day one. I think Herman, myself, people like Jenny, Marvin, Diego, all these people are decision makers to a greater or less extent in the project, and we're all very public. So that's probably the easiest way. When Herman first got in touch with me last year, he did so publicly. There was never too much, anonymous kind of. A lot of projects, as you know, are very anonymous, and that has its reasons as well. But with Cherry, I mean, the first thing you can say is who we are, physically who we are. Second of all, you can probably see from our track record what we're capable of doing, our track record within Cherry and also within the our wider careers. We have some very experienced people. Herman gave you some insight into that. And then as well, I think that in terms of how we engage with the community, especially people that have met, team members of ours at the various events that we've done and the events themselves, the AMA, I think that we do communicate that we're very serious and that we're very sincere. We work extremely hard, and I think that does bolster trust and eliminate some of the doubts, which is basically what you asked. There was another question, I think, which was so Adrian asked, are the Dubai offices already running at full capacity? Well, I mean, how do you run an office at full capacity? It's probably bad if you run an office at full capacity, because that means that there's too many people packed in there. It's also summer at the moment in Dubai, so a lot of the people, most people in Cherry kind of would work in different locations at different times, especially based on business demands. I'm not sure how many people are in Dubai at the moment working there. I'm not, because I couldn't handle the heat, that's for sure. With regards to will we be able to see photos and videos of the offices? Yes, of the offices, yeah. With their workers, no. That's not really something that anybody does, because it's extremely poor management to video people, to record people while they're working for no reason. I mean, we've had this question a couple of times. You can always simply go there, or even easier, you could go to Google and search the address of Cherry Technologies in Dubai, which is where we're registered with the United Arab Emirates government for tax purposes, etc., and legal purposes. So yeah, I mean, we obviously must have a presence there if we're incorporated there. So I mean, I think we've been over this question a couple of times, and I can't really give anything more about that. Okay, so yeah, with regards to some of the exciting things that are going on, I'm going to now hand you over to Marvin, and he's going to tell us about some of the cool kind of progress that himself and John have been making on the Cherish side over the past few days. And then we're going to jump into the quiz. Hopefully we'll be done and dusted within about 10 minutes or so with the quiz as well. So for those of you quiz masters who have been waiting to get involved, yeah, please bear with us, and we'll have the questions up pretty soon.
All right, I think that's my cue. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Very interesting piece of knowledge Herman shared with us, and the backstory of some of the people here at Cherry. Excuse me. Okay, at the Cherish side, as Herman mentioned, there's a lot of people coming in to Cherry and Cherry Labs, and Cherish as well. We've been hiring some new engineers to make sure that the launch goes fluently. Cherish is quite a big project from the back, because it's not just a random website you're throwing up, and that has to be integrated with the Cherry chains and Cherry network. So that means that there's a lot of work to be done, but work is being done nonetheless, and it's going quite well actually. We've been making a lot of progress over the last days, weeks, months. So I'm sure you are all happy to hear that. Then on the business side, onboarding is flying. We've been having a lot of success. A lot of creators starting to notice that we're actually pushing for something that everybody can enjoy. And this is mostly due to the efforts John and I have been doing, educating creators that have been onboarded or are about to be onboarded. And that is something we need to do more towards the community as well, because you guys are you are the core of everything really. Without community, we don't have much. So we are putting in a lot of efforts trying to explain our choices and architecture and design choices at Cherish, and we are making some comprehensive overviews of what is being worked on why. So you can look forward to a Medium article, multiple articles coming out soon, and some more comprehensive visual content while we are still hard at work on some of the more technical things. As Eoghan mentioned, it's really exciting times for us, I think, for the whole Cherry ecosystem, and we are very much happy to be a part of that. I think that's about everything. We just want to get more knowledge out, so we're really constantly working on that. And I think we're going to be doing a very good job at that when it comes out, and you guys will see the results of that. That will be all for me. Thank you for listening.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I couldn't unmute myself. Okay, thank you, Marv. That was very interesting. I think it's for anyone that's specifically interested in Cherish, or people that have an interest in Cherry in general. I suppose it's worth mentioning that. So basically, we've had an approach that we would do as much direct outreach with people, because it would draw more and more attention to us if we can, pitch our offering directly in a very personal way. It took a while for us to refine this and really get it down. But then once we kind of discussed how we would go about this process of discovery, then Marv and John, as Marvin just mentioned, were able to just like go at it, try out things, see what worked. And now it's really, really taken off in the past few weeks. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but yeah, it'll be a case where when the project, when Cherish, the platform, launches, there'll be a substantial number of creators there, which is a really encouraging thing. It's very good for the project to be able to open to an already functioning artistic ecosystem. So that's very cool. So yeah, congratulations to Marvin and John on that hard legwork done there. And I suppose people at this point are probably getting a bit tired and they want to get involved in the quiz. So I think what we might do is wrap things up here. I'll thank you all again for joining us. Any questions, as always, let me know. Let us know in the chat, or let me know directly. Much appreciated. And I suppose we'll update you with regards to some of the things that were discussed in this call over the next couple of days. But yeah, it's a very busy time, very exciting time, and we look forward to talking to you about more progress this time next week. Okay, see you later, guys. Bye-bye.